You should be able to see
I,
it.
I I can see it.
Okay, good. All right, so so much to talk to you about. The funny thing is that I had to start revising this update because so much has changed since I sent out the original email and the original text. Uh, when I started this, the first time I did it, we were literally still in the something may be happening, and Iran is trying to contact Trump in the White House stage and all that stuff. But now we're at a much higher level. Obviously, we are now at war with Iran, and that's really just changed everything on a whole nother level. Uh, so yeah, so let me just work through some of this stuff. If you have any questions, feel free. Okay, so well, and I've included little obvious titles like Israel at War. Uh, I wanted to mention, let me move this a little bit to clear up the screen. I wanted to mention a couple of the issues that are going on here internally just as I get started. There's a struggle that Israel has from its inception, and it's always managed to overcome it uh, despite these many wars. But this time it has been a challenge. This is more true when we're talking about the war with Hamas, namely the struggle about total victory, meaning defeating the enemy, versus save the hostages. And, when sometimes Americans hear that there are only 20, well, there are 50 around 50 hostages left, living and dead. Even dead bodies are considered hostages. And people may struggle with understanding why that's even an issue that Israel would consider that. But Israel very much has this mentality that every individual life is entitled to the same benefits that the whole group is. And so it's caused huge protests in Israel about bringing the hostages back, doing everything you can. And people even tried to, topple the government over this issue about saving the hostage, even though there's only a few in number left, versus, and they demand, Israel make a ceasefire deal that's mainly on the left, but it's still a lot of loud
What's
voice
that?
versus uh, the need for achieving total victory. So but now this war with Hamas has, I mean, the war with Iran, of course, is on a different scale altogether. But that's been a challenge for over a year with Israel and its citizens, some really demanding a resolution of the crisis and cutting a deal at any cost. But of course, that's really not practical, and a lot of people realize that, especially on the right. The other issue is that this was just literally a couple days. It was still going on before the Iran war began. Was what the Haredi draft bill crisis. The Haredi are the ultra orthodoxy, ultra religious. People recognize them a lot in America with one of the major groups, the Lubavitchers that you see a lot with the black hats and the black clothing. Uh, it's a broader number than that, but they do not serve in the IDF. Some of them do volunteer and they have their own units, but for a very long time, they have not been required to serve in the military. So you're talking about 2 million people not being required to serve, and this has caused a lot of internal tension with those who do serve, with those who remain in the reserves for their entire life, and they tried to push through a bill to require them to serve. But when the present government formed its coalition, they cut a deal with the Haredi uh, political faction to get them to form a coalition, and they threatened to pull out and topple the government if they pushed it through. So they cut some sort of agreement with them and delayed things. I'm not sure what's going on right now, but anyway, it's just a challenge. So a lot of Israelis struggle and resent that because they're sending their sons to the battlefield while the Haredi don't. The law, I won't spend a lot of time on that, but the logic is that, when the government, when the country was formed, Ben Gurion, the prime minister, said, "You're like the priests of the nation," and they, allowed them to not serve actively. But that was a long time ago in Israel's history, before there were about, you know, 2 million people that could be defending the country or taking part in these things. And so it's a challenge. Anyway, those are just some of the internal struggles that have been going on. But let me, and again, jump in if you have any questions. But let me update you with what's going on right now. Uh, oh, well, of course, uh, well, a week ago, the biggest thing was Gaza, of course, and you have all these organizations, these terrorist organizations in Gaza, the Al-Qassam Brigades, which is the military wing of Hamas, which has been, at the heart of this thing. There's been other groups as well, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad and their Al-Quds Brigade, and the an even smaller group that people don't really hear about is the Palestinian Mujahideen movement. But it turns out that it was this group in particular, their military wing, that were responsible for kidnapping and murdering, the Bibas family, the mother with the two redheaded children that was so famous. And Israel took many of them out and took out the leader of this group, I believe. But these are the main players so far. But there are other terrorist groups in Gaza that are participating in this war. But up until now, that was, Hamas and Gaza was the main focus. I just mentioned these guys briefly. I'll talk about more later when I get to Iran and their proxy organizations. But
So, yeah.
that's what's been happening. All right, so, and Israel began on May 16th, the night of May 16th, and the day of the 17th, because Israel's on a lunar calendar, Operation Gideon's Chariots. They finally had to prioritize that decision about eliminating the crisis, the threat of Hamas and Gaza. And so they launched this mission, which the goal, which was to completely destroy Hamas's military and administrative infrastructure, to eradicate their control of Gaza entirely, and secondarily to save the hostages. And this was sort of new because up to now it's always been the primary mission was to save the hostages, and so they would not do everything they could to just go in there and drive them out. But that, I think, changed. People are debating that, but that suddenly receded into the background a couple days ago when the war with Iran began. Uh, and so, well, what can I tell you? Iran remains Israel's implacable foe. And that sounds very old-fashioned to say implacable, but I use it anyway, and continues to do everything within its power to destroy Israel. And they are the main everything that has been going on here. By the way, if you're wondering, if you've ever wondered when you see the Iranian flag what this is, you wouldn't know by looking at it, but that's a tulip. So if you learn anything, you'll learn that there's a tulip on the Iranian flag. It's a little stylized, and it's a symbol for martyrdom. Uh, Very different from, I meant to include the old Iranian flag, which has a picture of a lion with a sunburst behind it, which shows the current operation is a bit of a double metaphor for the Iranians and for the Israelis. But Israel's been fighting everything since October 7th, in large part because of Iran's sponsorship of these events. And behind all this is the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, who Israel has not assassinated, but I think his days are numbered. Uh, he is hiding. He's pretty traumatized, from what I understand, because Israel's taken out the entire leadership of the military. And so there are now people running everything who he has not worked with. But this guy is just nasty, and Israel will probably take him out very soon, in theory. Uh, so just many of you probably already know this already, but just a quick review. So Iran has its own army, but it also has an existing army, but it has a separate army. And tell me if this sounds familiar, called the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And they were founded in 1979 uh, uh, after the Islamic Revolution to protect the regime and promote their revolutionary ideas. They're parallel to the regular army, to the Iranian military, but more loyal to the supreme leader. Does that ring a bell to anybody? Uh, I hope it does.
Iraq,
What's that?
Iraq.
Yeah, Iraq, but that, yeah, many things. But in particular, I was thinking of, this is what the Nazi army was originally. It was like it began as a military branch loyal to I mean the SS and the Gestapo as military units that were loyal to the party, and of course they grew alongside the uh, uh, German army, the Wehrmacht, and they had a parallel structure. And so in the war, in World War II, the Allied forces were fighting the Wehrmacht, the German army, as well as a separate army, the Gestapo and the SS and all the groups attached to that. So I don't think the parallels here are ironic at all. They were, interestingly enough, only designated a terrorist organization in 2019. It took that long for them to be called what they are, And we're talking about the group, uh, that in 19, I think it was 79, that began kidnapping, or they broke into the American embassy and took everyone hostage. I remember that day because several of us, Norm and others, were in the Marine Corps and were seeing that happening live. I remember all that way back then. And so since then, Iran has been involved in terrorism on some level. Uh, but they are uh, just the cause of unrestrained evil in the Middle East. Well, the IRGC has a separate force called the Quds Force, which is an elite external wing of the IRGC. They're responsible for foreign operations and proxy wars. Uh, Everything that's been happening for the last year and a half, they have sponsored in one way or another. They operate outside of Iran, and they focus on asymmetrical warfare, just causing as much destruction as they can. Uh, and so, all that to say, they sponsor. This is part of their military doctrine was to create these proxy units, or military groups surrounding Israel. This circle of fire, I think they called it, that would be used to stop Israel from striking them. That is all collapsed, or at least they're not active. I mean, it's really strange why none of these proxy groups have done anything to defend Hamas. They've been rendered unable or depleted or whatever, but that plan does not happen. But you have again the Al-Qassam brigades in the West Bank and in Gaza, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Al-Quds Brigade, the Mujahideen movement in Gaza and the West Bank. But you have Hezbollah in London, which Israel is, I'll talk more about them, the Houthis in Yemen, and even there are even other militias in Iraq. They are everywhere. So the West has got to come to terms with the reality of this military uh, presence, and some of them are of no consequence, but others are growing in power. And if you realize that the IRGC in Iran began in many ways like these other groups and rose to having the status of a full army, what lays ahead if these groups are not dealt with by the West? But this has just simply been avoided. Uh, uh, any questions, by the way? Let me just stop there and take a breath and drink water. If you have a question, feel free.
Okay, go ahead. I have a question.
Yes.
Do you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, so how do the Israeli people feel about what America is doing or not doing in Israel right now?
Okay, very good question. Well, on the one hand, Israel is very, well, not on the one hand, Israel is very, very, very grateful to the United States. And, I know believers in America are divided about Trump, but there is no division on Trump in Israel for the most part. Yes, people recognize some of the stuff that that gets Christians upset, or conservatives who are against Trump or on the left. But compared to the previous administration, it has been nothing short of a miracle, the support that Israel has got from the United States. And so, of course, America is very grateful for what has happened. Even back when it was just Hamas, he brokered a lot of release of the hostages. But we get mixed signals. So there is that tension. People don't know, is he just being mysterious? Is he playing Hamas, or playing Iran, which he seemed to be doing? And so right now, the tension for Israel is, you know, we we were fully expecting tonight for the United States to enter the war militarily, not indirectly, but directly. But then the reports are that uh, he's thinking about it for the next 2 weeks. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. Nobody knows. And people are trying to understand. But even if the United States does nothing further for Israel, they've made a huge difference. So that sort of encapsulates the feeling. You know, the United States has done everything, in many ways to help Israel and to support Israel. Even what's going on currently, it's understood that this cannot, in many ways, continue without the United States support. So Israel's grateful, and Israelis are always willing to fight for themselves. That's been a doctrine of the government from the beginning, of the IDF. To fight our own wars. They never ask Americans to die on our behalf. Um, on the other hand, a lot of nations in Europe, suddenly they didn't want to do anything at all, and they were ignoring Iran. They were very milquetoast about it in terms of recognizing the threat. And now suddenly you have Germany and France and other nations saying that they're thanking Israel and saying that Israel is fighting on behalf of the world, and that is true because uh, uh, Iran will come for the rest of the world once it's come for Israel. That is their goal, to have a nuclear arsenal capable of reaching the rest of the world. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But yeah, so that's a long answer to a very easy question. Israel is grateful, but like everyone else, not sure what will happen next. The government has been very supportive. Uh, without I think the support of the United
Ask a
States Air
question.
Force and the B-1 bomber, they cannot destroy the uh, uh, uranium enrichment that is buried very deep, and only a B-1 bomber can, and a bunker buster bomb can take care of that.
Me
Yes,
too.
there was another question. Who was that? Randy? Is that you?
Yep.
Go
I
ahead.
have a
Nope.
question.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
This contingent of Iranians who supposedly want to meet with Trump at the White House. My question to you is, who are they? Do they actually represent the Ayatollah, or are they perhaps an insurgent group that wants to
I
discuss
think
how to get rid of
I think that is just in the rumor mill right now. Iran, on the other hand, is saying they won't make any concessions at all. They will not surrender. They will not do anything that Trump is
Well, we
demanding.
know that Khomeini won't make any. We know that Khomeini won't make any concessions. He's old and he would rather die than give in to the United States. But the point is that the reason Trump has called for this up to 2 week hiatus in making a decision is because there are these people in Iran who, supposedly in a notable position, who want to come and speak to Trump. That's his whole basis for putting this on hold for 2 weeks, is that there's still a possibility of some kind of an agreement that can be worked out. So what I'm asking you is, who the hell are these people from Iran who want to speak to Trump? Do they represent Khomeini, or are they another contingent group that it's maybe an insurgent group?
I don't think anybody
Or
knows.
do you
Well,
know?
listen, I am sure the guy, and again, this is speculation and conspiracy theory stuff. But on the other hand, we already know that there are Iranians who oppose the current government and
Where does it normally go?
that is not a debate.
So,
So there's already probably some uprising, and
you're
they're trying to encourage people to rise up right now. So it's not like destroy, the decision to attack. What the U.S. would do would be destroy their nuclear reactors completely and wipe them out, so they cannot get anything out of that. And so no individual in Iran that would be supportive of uh, U.S. involvement is opposed to that. So all this talk about people wanting to come to the White House, well, they're not going to get to come to the White House, that's for sure. They're not going to allow a delegation from Iran to come to the White House right now. So I'm sure, Zoom works just as well for them as it does for us here. They're not going to get a free ride to come and try to parley. And I think that as far as the president is concerned, it's no longer time to negotiate. They need to capitulate. Now, will he waffle on that? Uh, we hope not, but some people have that suspicion or concern. But people are a little stressed out today because they were waiting for that psychological relief of knowing that they were going to take out that final nuclear site that is very, very deep in a mountainside, and only a bunker buster bomb, which only the United States is capable of launching or delivering, will take it out. Now, Israel has other mechanisms to deal with it, but none will be as fast or as effective as that. And they're not telling anybody what they will do. So I don't think there's any legitimate uh, reserve because of some people that want to go to the White House and meet. I think that moment is past. The president said you have 60 days to make a decision. On day 61, Israel launched the operation. So we'll have to see what will happen next.
Noel, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead, April.
Well, do you think this is the Jeremiah 49 prophecy against Elam, that indeed they will have the bow broken and the people scattered to the four winds?
Uh, you know, everyone is trying to read the prophetic tea leaves, and it's easy to say things in advance and then confirm it in retrospect. I think we certainly see things beginning to unfold. Uh, you know, Reading from Matthew 24, the timetable is ticking down of wars and rumors of war. And Jesus said these are merely the birth pains. And not that I can speak authoritative in any way about a birth pain, but as the child approaches, they come faster and they come more severely. And I think we see that happening. And people say uh, evangelicals or messianics or whatever, they are too, they're overreading these texts. Well, I have to tell you, the nations are surrounding Israel, and before this war began, you had the entire European Union trying to bring about the destruction of the current government in Israel. France and England and Canada were about to declare recognition of the Palestinian state, and I believe they did already sanction members of the Israeli government, an ally of the United States. So if this may not be the end game in its totality, I think that we have to see other things falling into place. But certainly from a prophetic perspective, things do begin to line up. But I'm cautious about saying this is that yet, but it certainly feels that way. Let me tell you, when you're in that parking lot bunker and you hear the bombs exploding over your head, you are having as they say, a come to Jesus moment kind of experience because it is scary. And there have been several times on the way to the bunker, and by bunker I mean what was a garage 2 days ago. That you're on your way. And actually, for a couple weeks, the Home Front Command had established like a 4-tier warning system. It was felt quite luxurious. We got like because they were outsmarting the Iranians. We had like a half-hour warning that said, be near your safety room or shelter. And so, people were taking showers and drinking coffee because then we knew we got another warning and says, get ready. And then we got another warning that says, you got like 10 minutes. And then we got the all out siren that we were familiar with from when it was just the Hamas war. And that finally the Iranians were catching on and started mixing up how they were doing things. I'm not really sure what happened, but now we just get a 5 to 10 minute warning and then the final siren. So, we've had several times where we got the screech, which when you get woken up out of a dead sleep, that scares you to death. And I don't know how it does it, but it takes over your phone and your light starts flashing, your flashlight, and it becomes possessed. And so that will scare you to death when you wake up, but you jump out of bed and you're out the door and then you're on your way. But on the way, we've got that final siren, and that is the scary one. That means the rockets will be there in 30 seconds or less. So, yeah. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, is the Iron Dome not working as well as they hoped, obviously, because it seems like a lot are getting through.
Yeah. Well, the missiles. So there are 3 levels uh, uh, of defensive umbrella of missile systems. Iron Dome is for the closer range rockets, like
Okay.
from Gaza and from Lebanon, and the Arrow system is the defensive system for like Iran. Uh, but the uh, current understanding right now is that, Iran, and I don't know if everything that's hit is a result of that, but Iran is using very sophisticated missiles that can maneuver outside the atmosphere as well as in, and have managed to avoid some of the interceptors. And this is the current challenge. I don't know what they'll tell us when all this is over and they debrief, but those missiles have been able to avoid being hit. And then they've just tried to overwhelm the system. On the first day we had I think over 200 rockets, if I'm correct, or 200 missiles. Now it's been 20 missiles, 30 missiles, 10, but some of them very powerful and then broken through. So I don't know if you've seen the television pictures, but they've hit some of these buildings and they've uh, just destroyed them. And it's the shock waves that are as powerful as the impact and have destroyed other buildings. So I don't know ultimately, and I'll show you some statistics in a minute of what they're launching with. But yeah, good question. All right, well, I'll keep going, but if you have another question, feel free to jump in. All right, so of course, April, you mentioned a text, but also Ezekiel 38, they play a role there. Holly, did you have a question?
Well, it's just this is probably speculation, but my understanding is the concern over here in the States is, because the United States not to get involved. But if I'm not mistaken, that Israel IDF does not have the aircrafts that can transport those bunker bombs. Because I know that we have the bombs for them, but do they have aircraft that can drop them?
That's right. You need a B-52, to my understanding, or B-1. I know there's some on here who can add to that. You know who you are. If you want to comment, feel free to jump in. Uh, and Israel cannot deliver a bunker buster bomb. Certainly, we don't have them. And I'm not sure if there's any congressional oversight that prevents that. But it's my understanding that the delivery system you need is strictly in the American hardware system. And that's why that would require a direct active intervention. And again, Israel's hit most of their nuclear sites, but some of those nuclear sites are just the Fordo side, I believe, is just too deep to fully penetrate it. But Israel does have operational plans to deal with that, but they can't do what the United States can do with one bomb and reach into that
Depth, yeah.
mountainside. Yeah. And
No,
so,
no.
yes, sir.
This is David Guthrie with
Yes, sir.
FEBC Minute. Hey, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Israel has Buster those bombs. They just don't have the 30,000 pound bomb.
Yes, correct. Thanks for that correction. You're right.
And actually, the United States has to drop two of them because that one bomb only has a penetration depth of 200 feet. So it'd be the same thing the Israelis have done before. They would have to drop two of them, one right behind the other, and hit right behind it. So they'd hit down to 200 feet, kind of dig out a big furrow, and the second one would be the one that would try to collapse or destroy the facility at 300 feet.
Okay, right. Great. Thank you very much. And
sure.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Thank you. And I did actually know that Israel has used bunker buster bombs before, which is what has outraged the people who are so hostile to arming Israel. But I didn't have that extra detail that David just provided. So yeah, so Israel can wear them away, but let's face it, American hardware can get things done much faster and much more effectively. And also, just the Iranians are trying to overload the Israeli ability to function, and America will be able to deal with that in conjunction with Israel. So, yeah, that's the situation. So, and going back to what I said earlier, we all thought, no one knew for sure, but we know that if the United States chooses to get involved, and that will raise many issues and complications, that things would escalate. Iran has said that if America gets involved, not only will they hit American bases, but they will double down on what they will use against Israel. Now, you have to remember that it is all about blustering and lying and everything else. I mean, let's be clear, folks. Israel clobbered Iran. Iran has air superiority over Iran right now. They're flying over Tehran without, any concern about what Iran can do. On the other hand, China has been shipping things to Iran. There were several, I believe, 747s from China that were, according to their flight plan, going to somewhere in Europe, and they just vanished off the map. So who knows what they are bringing to support Iran?
And I bad.
Yeah.
Hey,
Okay.
Joel.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I had a question, Noel, about you mentioned Iran's proxies. What about the proxy that is Iran? What about where is Russia in all of this?
Okay, good question. I'll come to that. So let me continue then. That's a great question, Ted. Thanks.
Okay.
Good. What can I tell you? That's a great question because nothing is new under the sun. When it's weird seeing all my old friends here from days gone by. When we were young and still had hair and it wasn't gray, and we were young Marines. I remember one time, I don't know if any of you other fellow Marines remember this, but they had a speaker at some location, and he was from Russia, and he held up, or maybe Ukraine or something, and he held up Life magazine if I don't know if any of you went with me. I think, but he held up Life magazine, and it said Russia Today, and he said, and he said, "What's the lie?" He said, "The lie is there is no Russia today like this," or something like that, meaning, that Israel, that Russia was, had conquered all these countries that weren't really part of Russia. It was the Soviet Union, and that from the even from then, it was this Cold War. From the 70s, Israel's been fighting, been a proxy for the Cold War between the United States and Russia, and it is still alive today. If you remember the when Mitt Romney was running against Barack Obama for the presidency. And there's this one aha moment where they were being interviewed and they're talking about somebody asked them, what is the most important thing on foreign policy that the United States needs to be concerned with? And Mitt Romney said, Russia. And President Obama brought the house down by saying, uh, 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 the 80s called and they want their foreign policy back. And everybody laughed and they were mocking Romney. Well, let me tell you, they're not laughing now. Russia, since when we were in the, it collapsed and then made and that everybody said that was the end of it, but it has made a full comeback in some respects. And they are, behind all these events in many ways. So, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So, yeah, I'll get to that. All right, so all that to say, this brings us to that siren is a car, hopefully just a criminal trying to break in and not somebody planning to drop a bomb on me. But Israel initiated Operation Rising Lion. Again, Iran's promise to annihilate the state of Israel reached critical mass. The IDF confirmed that Iran was currently building 9 nuclear weapons and they plan to use them. So right now, Iran has enough enriched uranium to build 9 nuclear missiles. And listen, let me tell you, they will speak of the recent events in Israel and their intelligence capabilities for centuries, if West Point lasts that long, because the IDF was able to discover that they had actually conducted further testing and trying to make the missiles or whatnot, and they were going to use these rockets. And so that is why Israel had to act. Israel had no choice but to strike first preemptively and take them out. So they could have a nuclear missile in a matter, some people say a matter of weeks, some people say a matter of months, it depends. But the point is, Israel had to strike now. It was that clear that we were in danger. And Iran has been crystal clear. Their goal is to destroy Israel. That's what they will do. And that is why Israel struck now. So on June 13th at 2:59 a.m., we got the alerts from Home Front Command, which you can download on your phone if you want to join us in the stress, and said, go, be ready, stand by, go to your shelter, be ready for what's coming next. And, of course, we're sitting there in front of our TV, just glued to the screen, not believing what's happening. It was scary. IDF launched Operation Rising Lion, which I think is a double entendre, because Isaiah talks, there's a reference there about Israel being like a rising lion, but also on the Iranian flag, of the previous, of the Kingdom of Iran, it was on the flag, there was a lion with a sunburst behind it. And so that leads me to speculate that if they do take out Iran's government, and that's very much how it sounds now, the way people are talking, not merely crippling their military capabilities, but actually replacing the government, it would install the Shah, the son of the Shah of Iran that died when he was in the United States during the Islamic Revolution. But who knows? We'll have to see when we get there. But uh, the goal of the operation was to destroy Iran's nuclear capabilities, what they've done. I mean, this is an amazing operation. I remember when I was at one of my terrible day jobs trying to when I was out here trying to support myself. I'd look up things to kill time about comparing Iran's defenses versus Israel's defenses, and of course everybody said that Iran would take out Israel in 15 minutes. Well, Israel in a matter of 3 days had technically, I don't know what the end game will be, or if China or Russia will be able to interfere, but from a military standpoint, once you have air superiority militarily, you've basically defeated the enemy. They can do all kinds of insurgency stuff, but Israel controlled the skies. How humiliating to Iran to see, Israeli jets flying over their skies, flying over Tehran. But that was a fact from by day 3, Israel had taken out their air defenses, had conducted all kinds of secret operations. I don't know if you know this, but Mossad had, which is, like the CIA of Israel, and everybody talks about how scary Mossad is. Well, when October 7th occurred and all these terrible events unfolded, everybody in Israel took a bit of a ding, and people questioned, is that all myth? Is that all just bluster? I mean, well, let me tell you, Mossad has restored its scary factor. They had built like a drone base in Iran, and they launched drones from within Iran. They had trucks positioned around military bases, and they open up, and it's just like one of these scary movies. All the drones come flying out, and they're blowing up the bases. So highly effective, but it is not done.
That's
So that
pretty
was
awesome.
first objective was yes, I saw how excited you're getting. I knew you would. So their first was to destroy Iran's nuclear capabilities. Secondly, to kill the military high command, which they effectively did. I meant to have include a infographic, but I think I forgot it, where it shows they took out 20 of their chain of command. And then so they took out the commanding general of the IRGC, and then 3 days later they took out the next new commanding general of the IRGC. They've just incredible capability, but they've done that. So now Iran has no control of their sky, and their military commanders are second stringers, and in some cases third stringers. And there was something else that they were supposed to do, but I forgot what it was. But those were their main objectives for sure. They did other things as well. And so that's where we're at in terms of the operation. All right, well, let me give you some totals. This is as of day 6. This changed this morning because, among other things, Iran targeted a hospital. Most of the hospital in Beersheba in the desert, most of that wing was empty as of yesterday, ironically. And so nobody in the hospital got hurt significantly or at all, but there were other casualties as a result of that. But going from, I think we're at like day 9 now. I'm lost track, to be honest, 8 or 9. But there were 24 deaths, and they were very close to my house. We live in East Rishon and in West Rishon LeZion, which, by the way, means first to Zion from the book of Isaiah. There were 2 people killed in West Rishon. There were a town near me called Bat Yam, a little closer to the sea. 10 people were killed. So there have been people killed nearby. And these houses were not built to survive these hypersonic weapons, incredibly powerful. So even if some people had safety rooms in their houses, they were not safe. So now the Home Front Command is advising people, if you can, go to an underground shelter. There are more than 452 people injured, and there have been, or there were, as of the 6th, 33, or the 6th day of the battle, 33 direct hits on buildings, but now there are more. And now they've started trying to take out, and they are targeting civilians. Israel, this is the, inversion of this demonic lie. You accuse, I don't know if you're familiar with this book called Rules for Radicals by, what's his name? Saul something. I went blank just now. And he says one of the things you do is you accuse your enemy of doing what you're doing, and they target uh, civilians and they target hospital, but they accuse us of doing that. Now, ironically, at the beginning of the war against Hamas, a hospital was destroyed, and it was caused by Palestinian Islamic Jihad messing up a launch, and the rocket fell on a hospital. Well, of course, the
Oops.
internet went berserk accusing Israel of targeting a hospital, but it didn't. And then when they did target hospitals, they tried to evacuate them. And the only reason they did target them was because they were being used underground as command centers for Hamas. So,
Come on. Yeah.
but in any event, uh, this is what the international media is doing, is feeding those lies, which are just simply not true. But so uh, that was the current status, but no more. They launched, as of 6 days ago, 440 ballistic missiles and about 160 drones. Those numbers have increased. What country would tolerate this? No country would tolerate this.
Oh,
And yet, if you'll recall, under the previous administration, when in one day Israel had 300 ballistic missiles and drones launched at us, they said, the president said, President Biden said, uh, call it a win. That's what he told Israel, that you didn't uh, perish, that you survived. Well, that I doubt seriously any other country would have that response. But anyway,
wow.
that's the situation.
Wow.
But those numbers have since jumped. Now, as I said, I live in Rishon LeZion, and this is my TV screen a couple days ago when a missile hit these very nice villas that I would a couple of days ago been happy to live in, and you can see the collateral damage of wherever the rocket actually hit was multiplied because the sonic or the
Yeah.
blast, the sound wave,
Oh,
did all this damage. It was
wow.
I think it was a hypersonic rocket, but I'm not sure if it was. But you can see the destruction layer is just not just one
Yeah.
house, it hit several. And since then, there's been much, much more damage. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, pretty intense stuff. Uh, so, um, back to now. I don't think this is what the rockets look like. I shamelessly stole this graphic. I confess I didn't have time to do my own, but the
I
big
know nothing. I hear nothing. La la la. I didn't hear that.
right,
Too
yeah,
still.
right, yeah, right. Yes, but so the big threat facing Israel. And the other countries are paying attention because these hypersonic weapons are a real threat. To be hypersonic, I believe you have to move 5 times the speed of sound. That
Wow.
classifies it
Huh.
as hypersonic, and they have a extraordinary payload. And so the current designation of these two latest versions of the Fatah 1 and the Fatah 2 rocket being manufactured by Iran, and they're very proud of these weapons. And their feature is that they can maneuver in the atmosphere as well as outside of it. So they're hard to target and to knock out. But these will be a threat not just to Israel, but to anybody that they try to take on. Imagine what the threat would be if they are tipped with a nuclear warhead, the danger that would be involved. So
Right.
this is why Israel had to act now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and this is where I've been spending many hours my little corner is like right over here. Where everybody gets very territorial down here, they take a spot. Uh, Eleanor and I got upset because a new family came down and they were having like a soccer field where we were, and we were having to avoid getting knocked down, so we had to relocate, but we survived. But yeah, so this is about 2 levels down, and but from down here we can hear and we can feel the shock waves of the hits.
Wow.
So
When in your email, I think you talked about in the 2 levels down underground, because my fear, when bombs hit above, and of course the whole concrete parking garage is going to collapse on you. That scares me too. So is that really safe? It's designed to be
well, in
safe.
theory, it's pretty safe, but I don't know. There's no guarantees, but we stand a better chance down here than up there. It is just not safe to be above
Well, I get
ground.
that, but
Yeah, but hopefully, I
right.
think, but Israel
Wow.
builds these things with the
They're
intent of
only hoping
being
she's like, oh, it's
or
going to fall in.
okay. So, by the way, if you're not, check your mics, please, just to make sure so you don't speak over. But hopefully they are secure. But if you want to jump in, by all means, jump in. All right. So, before I go on, any questions about that or about any of those things? Okay. Jump in. Feel free. Did somebody have a question or comment? I lost you. Okay, well, so that's the most immediate threat of what's going on. I'll just briefly mention some of the other nations that have been involved. The increasing tensions and the reason in the region. I couldn't really figure out what to entitle this, so I just called it other nations, which is not quite as exciting. But on top of all that, there's what has been going on already. Syria is a source of concern. Despite the fall of the Assad regime in 24, in December, Israel's relationship with Syria remains tenuous. Uh, uh, I won't try to pronounce all these Arabic names necessarily well, but Ahmed Hussein al-Shara was appointed president of Syria in 2025. Before that, he was simply a terrorist, and his what is it name de guerre? I probably showing my lack of sophistication. Was Abu Muhammad al-Julani, as in Golani, meaning he was making some, claim there on the Golan, which Israel controls. Before the collapse of Syria, Israel had part of the Golan. Now, under the current situation, I think Israel's controlling all of it, simply to preserve a buffer from any danger. And he was this leader of this group called HTS for short, which disturbs me because that's also the abbreviation of an academic journal, and I don't want to read them anymore right now because of that. So, but yeah, so he was, in other words, this group was aligned with Al Qaeda before. So these are the people we're dealing with. All that to say, the situation remains complex and volatile. On the one hand, Israel's talking with them, and maybe they will recognize Israel, maybe not. Who knows? But that is what it is. Way back in June 3rd. Now, this was big news a couple weeks ago. Now it's nothing. Somebody launched 2 rockets from Syrian territory into the Golan Heights in Israel. So they're a threat. Ongoing. Lebanon, installed a new government and prime minister, and they promised to deal with Hezbollah, which, as we said, is stationed there. Uh, but how much of the government is the government? How much of it is Hezbollah is a matter of debate. Of course, Hezbollah suffered a tremendous humiliation with Operation Beeper. Does everybody know what that is?
Yeah.
I think so. And this also will go down in the annals of intelligence coups when Israel
Oh, was that the one with the pagers?
Yes, right, with the pagers.
Wow, that was
Uh,
awesome.
yeah, that was quite the accomplishment. And that will be spoken of in holy hush in many spy organizations for years to come. I mean, people were literally accusing Israel of trying to get them convicted of, uh, terrorist actions or war crimes, and because they were putting people in jeopardy when literally they were whoops. Sorry, so I'm getting a signal from somebody. I think we're good. They were literally designed to kill just that one person. There was in theory, no danger to anybody else other than that person that had it in his hand or in his pocket. And so they suffered terribly about that. But anyway, they've been lionized and made heroes, but they were just a bunch of terrorists that were wounded.
And Noel,
Yes.
I heard that Israel repeated something like that with the Islamic Air Force in Iran, where they
Yes.
hacked into their communication system and called a
Yes.
meeting and then blew
Right.
up the meeting.
Right, you're right. Yeah, another Mossad coup. They somehow uh, somehow arranged for the Air Force Command to have a meeting in a secret location in a bunker, and then blew it up. And so, they sent a message, hey, Bill, hey, Frank, we're meeting at 2. There'll be falafel, we're gonna plan how to bomb Israel. Okay, that's not really what they did, as far as I know, but they did blow them up. Yeah, so I mean, this is years and years and years of Israeli intelligence unfolding in real time. So yeah, but Hezbollah's military capabilities have been, to put it mildly, severely degraded, and so they have not engaged Israel in the defense of Iran. They couldn't really do it very effectively, even if they wanted to. But yeah, Iran's big plan of having these proxies as a buffer between Israel and and uh, Tehran has failed. 70% of Hezbollah's firepower was neutralized during that war, including their elite Radwan force. And the mission of the Radwan force was to invade Israel. So
Wow.
they've been crippled.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were invasion force, and they built tunnel networks in southern Lebanon. None of that has played out during this phase with the war with Iran. Hezbollah has withdrawn with the majority of its forces positions north of the Litani River in partial compliance of existing ceasefire agreement, which is where they were supposed to be before they started trying to support Gaza. So that's where they stand right now, but they're an ongoing threat. Yeah. Israel destroyed underground this was actually several days ago. I didn't update that. Israel destroyed underground drone manufacturing facilities in Beirut about a week ago, more than a week ago. So they are still active and trying to make a comeback. All right, well, Iraq. Well, needless to say, as you know, Iraq is biblical Babylon, part of the end time coalition that will gather against Israel in at least these texts and more. So if all I talked about was that, there you go. Iran back in Iran, there are Shia militia groups that continue to operate in Iraq. These include Kataib, Hezbollah, Aharakat Hal Nujaba. I sounded very intellectual until I tried to pronounce that. And Asaib al-Haq, right? In other words, there are still groups there that could become more active against Israel. All right, Yemen. Well, what can I say about Yemen? I need to say this. Now, if you're Israeli, you'll get this. Does anybody recognize this picture? Uh, this is from, if you've seen any of the news videos where the Houthi uh, uh, military spokesman is talking, you see they're very well dressed. If Yemen, if you check your map, is sort of at the mouth of the Red Sea. These are not actually real Yemeni Houthis, quote soldiers, aka terrorists. They're actually in a comedy sketch group called Eretz Neder, which means the wonderful land. Israelis love this show, and they were making sort of mocking the Houthis invading Israel. This is before all this happened, and they because they kept on saying Houthim, which for some reason is remarkably funny to Israelis. And and actually, when they were filming this, people got actually some people became very scared and called the police, saying that the Houthis had actually invaded Tel Aviv. They haven't, but yeah, but they are a little group with a lot of ballistic missiles given to them by Iran. So I
Right.
feel like I need to say something true about them now. But you know, I have to admit, I compulsively find myself saying Houthim on the news when I should not, because they're actually very scary. Now, that before the Iran war, they're actually more annoying than scary. Let me put it that way, because they would fire one ballistic missile at Israel, and everybody in the country would jump into a shelter. So they were mostly annoying because they would eventually shoot down that missile. Uh, but Israel and the U.S. have pommeled Yemen for its ballistic missile attacks and its attacks on shipping through the Red Sea, because they're at the mouth of the Red Sea. And so they've tried to cut off shipping and destroy uh, uh, all types of transport vessels. They actually made a deal with President Trump to no longer attack American ships, which, alarmed Israelis, because what about Israel?
Yeah.
Why didn't the president demand they agree to that? I don't know if they privately met that demand and publicly he allowed them to save face by not agreeing to attack Israel. I don't know. But that caused Israel to have some concern about what was going on. Uh, but any event, they are not doing much now. But at least they haven't done much. Why does Yemen continue to attack Israel in the face of, certain retribution? Because all they've got is that missile, and the next day they get, beat to death by rockets and bombs and everything. Well, and I asked this of uh, Kurt Jefferson, who is a professor in Kentucky. I don't know if he's on here or not, but I literally stole this from him in our text. So, Kurt, if you're here, I'm channeling you in spirit. But basically, their belief that Iranian supply chain will continue ad infinitum gives them the will to just keep attacking Israel, but it won't. They're also Shia Arab, part of the Shia Arab movement, are in battles with other Arab countries that are Sunni, like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirate. So they've got it out to get them. Yemen is 65% Sunni Muslim with a population of 41 million. But Houthis, as Dr. Jefferson has said, punch above their weight because of their Iranian firepower. So they figure they can take on the world.
Wow.
They can't. But most importantly, they're part of what's called the 12er Iman death cult.
Yikes.
Conservative there, a branch of Islam. They don't go around saying we're a death cult, but they are. In other words, they have this very messianic, mystical belief that, this will trigger the great Islamic messianic age once they destroy Israel. So they don't care what happens. They have, like the Iranian mullahs, no issue with the country being torn apart to prove their point, to destroy everything. So Anyway, they are a threat, but not near the threat that Iran poses. And then there's Turkey. Thanks for hanging in there. We're almost done, by the way. I'll wrap this up soon. Turkey, despite being a part of NATO, President of Turkey, Recep Erdogan, has repeatedly threatened to invade Israel. He said, quote, "We must be very strong so that Israel can't do these things to Palestine. Just as we entered Karabakh, just as we entered Libya, we might do the same to them. There's nothing we cannot do, only we must be strong." This is a member of NATO, one of our allies in theory, or one of the United States allies, who is openly threatening Israel to invade Israel in defense of the Gaza operation and the Palestinian cause. So there you have it. But more importantly, many people are arguing that they are the spearhead of a revived Ottoman Empire. And some people are very popular out there suggesting that Turkey is in fact Gog and Magog that we read about in Ezekiel 38. I know that this isn't the position a lot of Bible interpreters take, but it's catching on among a lot of people understanding this threat. It raises a lot of other questions down the line that you have to solve exegetically, but nevertheless, that is the argument that is out there. And, it's pretty sexy right now for a lot of people because of what's unfolding around here.
Wow.
All right. And that brings us to Russia, which supports Iran's nuclear program. Again, despite the fall of the Assad regime, Russia continues to exercise influence in Syria. That is how Russia was functioning as a player, was being very active with the Assad regime, but they've still worked something out now, and they're there. Well, of course, they are the classic Gog and Magog, according to the traditional leader of the coalition against Israel described in Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39. Is this that? I think we have to still hold the line that we've got to that point, but I think, you see a lot of, on a narrative level, these symbolic things unfolding, leading to an ultimate fulfillment. Well, sorry, I got ahead there. But yeah, will this be the end? We'll see. China is coming to the support of Iran. What will Russia do? I don't know. Russia wants to maintain control over all this. And I didn't mention this earlier, but the whole Palestinian conflict was a brilliant public relations scam that Russia invented. So they have been committed to this from the very beginning. So I'm running out of steam and it's late. I know I don't want to keep everybody, and I'm probably waiting for my wake-up call from Iran, but they very much orchestrated the public face of the Palestinian agenda. And all these college uprisings, in support of Hamas and all that can be traced back to when Russia told the Palestinians to stop threatening to drive Israel into the sea and to kill every Jew. And they said instead, just declare yourself a popular liberation organization and raise the banner of liberty. And man, that caught on like fire. And there you go. So, all right, well, that is the end of my update. And I didn't get shot down. Yes. Go ahead.
We have one question, and no, you didn't pay us to say it or ask it. What can we do to help you? You are right now in harm's way. And of course, we're praying, but what else can we do?
Okay, well, thank you for that brilliant question, which brings me to I want to mention my website to check out. Content is coming, but it's new and improved and updated. So look at it. I'll plug the content and the creator. That way, maybe it'll give me a break. Anyway, there. If you want to support my work, my teaching ministry, and my Middle East updates and not, there is a giving link there. Feel free to give to support my work. I would be eternally grateful. My wife would be eternally grateful, and the IRS would be eternally grateful too. I'm sure at the end of the day. So you can, of course, give to my work financially. You can, of course, prayer. If you can't give, pray. You can do both. That would be great and even better. But that's a big part of how you can do that. Pray for our safety. Pray for the state of Israel's safety.